top, of course, you have the name of the student and the goal. In this area, the instructional area, it could be a skills area. It could be the child's going to learn to dress himself. It could be the child's going to complete 5th grade math. It could be mathematics. It could be a number of things. But the little hangers at the bottom are probably almost not big enough for your readers at this point, Peggy. But it's essentially when you write an SEP, you have an annual goal, which is where you want them at the end of the school year. And if that starts in January, fine. If it starts in September, that's fine. If you go year round, that's fine. But what are you expecting them to be able to do by the end of the year? If you've got a child who's significantly behind grade level, let's say he's 12 years old and he's reading at the 2nd grade level, it would not be realistic to say, I want my child to be reading at the 6th grade level in June. So what's an appropriate goal that you would feel you could live with and you could work him forward toward reaching? So you have to kind of have that worksheet of what the weaknesses are, but you also have to think about how am I going to get him to reach that annual goal? Same thing when you're taking a journey, as Peggy mentioned at the beginning. If I'm going out to Rocky Mountain National Park, step number 1 is not going to be pull into Rocky Mountain National Park and set up my tent.
Exactly.
It just isn't. So how am I going to get there? Well, first we're going to get everything in the car. We're going to get it packed, and we have to decide how many nights we're going to spend on the road. So you're going to try and, again, as I use that term, task analysis. I used to do this in my workshops. I would ask parents, I want you to take something that you're used to doing, whether it's make a peanut butter sandwich or whether it's a long division problem, and I want you to list every single step it takes to do that. Think about it.
Right.
Think about it. How many skills do you need to have to do a single long division problem with 1 divisor and 2 digits under the division sign?
A lot.
And there's a lot of things to do. Well, you can't possibly write a short-term goal for every single one of those as an objective. But you get the idea that you have to break the long-term annual goal into at least bite-sized pieces so you don't choke on it. Then you have to decide how often you're going to evaluate the child. In some cases, you may need to check in daily. In other cases, it may be a monthly kind of thing. I just got a new parakeet, and it's 2 years old, and it was in a house with very active 4 boys. Very active, very, very active boys. And so I'm trying to calm the parakeet down somewhat before I get working. But my short-term goal is to get him to come on my finger. I'm starting with just putting my hand in the cage and saying, come up and get on my finger. So that would be short-term goal number 1. Now, later I'm going to work that he can get on my finger, and I'm going to get him to come out and maybe get on my shoulder. That's goal number 2. But my annual goal is to have a parakeet that I can play with and who will not be afraid to come to me and go back in his cage without flying into a window.
Yes.
So it's a goal. So how often am I going to check that? Well, for him, I'm going to be checking about once an hour right now. I try to show up at his cage almost every hour. What am I going to do? Well, in some cases, we ask the child an oral question for an evaluation procedure. In other cases, it's a weekly test. In other cases, it's a behavior. We may ask the child just to, I'm trying to think of one that's a simple thing, to button his own buttons. That's for a child who's significantly lacking, like a Down's child. Can he put his own shirt on without help? And that wants to be something I can see him do, and that's very important when you're setting goals. You want to have something that will what you can see. I used to have, unfortunately, it did not endear me to my public school friends, but my issue was they would write goals like the child will appreciate literature. Now, how do you measure that? How do you measure that? So it has to be something that you can see the child do, or if your mother came in and looked at you teaching the child, you could see that your mother could see that the child had learned how to do it. Eventually, my kids will come to the house and hopefully see my parakeet on my shoulder by the end of next year. I'm trying to pace it out. So it's a process. Again, I say it's a marathon, but you're writing what we call short-term goals for each of your 5 or 6 annual goals.